Ladies and gentlemen, he's become a superstar in Crown Heights. He's a Talmud Chacham, a deep scholar, but what's very unique about him is that he's also in philanthropy. He's been donating, creating, building sections of Talmud Torah, Chassidishkeit, and we would like to welcome tonight to share with us words of Torah because nobody's more deserving, Rabbi Shloimy Greenwald. Please give them a warm welcome.
Thank you. So they tell a story about a tzedakah collector. They call him in the Yiddish world a schnorr, and he's schnorring around for his meisid, and he comes to a very wealthy individual, and he tells him, I came now to collect for my yeshiva, for yeshiva's mir. And the person, the skivir, looks at him and says to him, money? Do you know my sister's husband passed away suddenly and left behind 4 children to raise by herself? This schnorrer was surprised and told him, I'm really sorry, I didn't know. The rich man continued and told him, do you know that my brother is addicted to gambling and he's deeply indebted with the loan sharks? They said that if he doesn't pay by tomorrow, they're going to kill him. This schnorr says, I didn't know, I'm so sorry. And my mother, my mother is sick. She's been in the hospital for many years, and her medical bills are huge. By now, this schnorr was so full of shame. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear this. Please accept my humble apologies. The rich man leans back in his chair and says, my family is in such trouble. I don't give them a single nickel. You think I'm going to help you? This might be a joke by some, and some might not be a joke. But we're here tonight to make this a reality. In this week's Parsha, the Torah tells us, Parshas Vayakel and Pekudei, the Torah tells us about the giving of the Mishkan, how the Eibishter told Moshe Rabbeinu and Parshas Truma and Tetzaveh all the details and the nuances of creating the Mishkan and the Kelim. And then comes Parshas Vayakel and Pekudei. Why the repetition? The Torah is so detailed about every single word. There's Gemaras and dapim, pages and pages of halacha. Yet when it comes to Truma Tetzaveh, Vayakel Pekudei, the Torah details again the instructions. And there are many answers to it. One of the famous Pashta answers are that Vayakel Pekudei is about Maaseh B'Poel. In Parshas Truma Tetzaveh, the Eibishter was telling Moshe Rabbeinu what he expected. Comes Parshas Truma Tetzaveh and says, okay, now it's time to step up to the plate and time to give and make this a reality. If you look in the names of Parshas Vayakel Pekudei, seemingly the words are contradictory. What's the difference between Vayakel and Asifa? And the Rebbe explains in a beautiful Sikha printed in Cheder Chaf Aleph, the Rebbe explains that Vayakel is the idea of bringing everybody together. But you're bringing everyone together, but you don't notice the individual. And Asifa is something that you're bringing people together, but the individual is still noticeable. Parshas Pekudei means to count. Like a minion, you have a minion, you're counting. If you look in the Parsha Vayakel, which means to gather and to bring everyone together, you don't notice the individual. L'cha'ira, seemingly, if you look in the Parsha, it speaks about the Menorah, speaks about the Aron, speaks about all the details of the individual. Parshas Pekudei, which means you're counting, you notice the individual, doesn't speak about so much about the individual. It speaks about the general. So why would Parshas Vayakel be called Vayakel and Pekudei? Pekudei, it should be the exact opposite. And the Rebbe explains that there are three ways to look at bringing the prat and the klal together. One way is that you have the specifics, you have the pratim, and the pratim mean absolutely nothing. But when you bring all the pieces together, all the puzzle together, it makes a klal. The Rebbe brings an example in Talmud, in the Gemara, Barchatzi Shir Osir Min Atera. There's a machlekes in the Gemara if a chatzi shir, if something which is a half a volume, if it's Osir Min Atera or not. And there's a machlekes, Rish Lakish says chatzi shir is muter min atera. Yet when you have the two shiurim together, that creates a new chalais, a new metzias. And then you have the second way to look at it, that you have the pratim, which are choshev, and you have the klalim, which are also choshev. But through all the pratim coming together makes a new metzias, a new klalim, and it gives a special chashivas to the klalim. There's a third way to look at when you have the pratim of the Mishkan and you have the klalim of the Mishkan. What does it create? And the Rebbe explains that there's a third way to look at it, that the klalim, really the pratim mean nothing without the klalim. But when you have the klalim, pratim come together, it makes a chashivas in the klalim. My friends, Vayakel Pekudei is what we're all here tonight. Reb David Yunik mentioned before the idea of supporting your daughter's school. This is not the board school. This is not the teacher's school. This is not the principal's school. This is our meisid. And as Reb David says so beautifully and eloquently, that when we support our children, when we show our children what do we have a kachin, when we talk around, what did you learn today? What did your teacher speak to you about today? And you show your kids that chinuch means the utmost, and you're involved. There's a fundraiser going on. There's a dinner going on, and you tell your kids, Mommy and Tati have to leave tonight because we're going to your school's dinner. This is the utmost respect that your kids can have for their meisid. And that's the idea of the Vayakel and Pekudei. On one hand, there's a Vayakel. You're bringing everyone together. You don't see the individual. But the only way that the pratim, the only way that we, every single person here in this room, could be b'shleimus is when we're all together. And that's the idea of Vayakel. First, we have to be together. We have to be ba'achdus. We have to unite together. And then afterwards, then we can get involved with the pekudei. We can get involved with the individual. Ramaishi Pinson, let's give him a round of applause. The word no is not in his dictionary. Maishi approached me about a year ago when he came up with this idea of expanding $100 million meisid. And he tells me, Shloimy, I want you and your wife, Marilet, to get involved. We're building a new seminary. And your grandmother, Zeldin Emes, Allah Hashalem, taught years and years in the seminary. And I want you to get involved and dedicate something. So I said, Maishi, let me get back to you. I thought about it, back and forth, spoke to my Rebbetzin, if this is the right thing to do. Does the Baba want something, doesn't want something? And it brought me back memories of when I was a bacher eating in her house. The first story I can remember is how much she supported Bais Rivkah. My grandmother was taught for many years with Morochana Gorowitz in Bais Rivkah Seminary, and Bais Rivkah Seminary meant the world to her. If somebody said a bad word about Bais Rivkah, she would lose it. Bais Rivkah was in her blood. And there was a time that my grandmother was a known mechaneches, not only in Lubavitch, but also outside of Lubavitch. And there was a school in Manhattan that my grandmother had a connection with the principal. The principal was my grandmother's student years ago, and she begged and beseeched my grandmother to come teach in the school. She mastered Dikduk, she mastered Tanakh, she was a phenomenal educator. And my grandmother said, I'm sorry, my meisid is Bais Rivkah. The school was reluctant, didn't give up, and said that we will offer you double what Bais Rivkah offers. Not only that, we will offer you as well In that time, it was a big deal to pay for your medical insurance. It was $6,000 then. My grandmother didn't know what to do, and she wrote to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe told her as follows, listen up. The Rebbe said that when you are teaching in the Moised of Nesidei Enu, you have special brachas. And from then on, my grandmother knew it was her shlichus to stay in Bais Rivkah. The Rebbe said she can go teach in other Moisdes as well. But chas v'shalom, should you ever leave the Moised Bais Rivkah. Another story which emphasizes the importance of loyalty and commitment. My grandmother once, and I remember this story, there was I don't know if it was here or it was maybe on Crown Street, the dining room was slippery, and she slipped. And she came to the doctor, and she was in a lot of pain, and the doctor told her, you know, you should really sue the school. So she turns to the doctor, I should sue the school? Does your right hand hurt the left hand? This is my maisid, chas v'shalom, to even think of such words. My baba, who was, in addition to a mechanecha, she wanted to pursue her education, and she wrote to the Rebbe, she told the Rebbe that she wants to go to college. And the Rebbe told her, what is college going to help you in your chinuch? She wanted to become a lawyer then. So she told the Rebbe, okay, can I go and take psychology? So the Rebbe says, psychology, that will help you in your chinuch. So, as I said before, the idea of Parshas Vayakal and Pekude is the idea of Maisa B'Poyel. Talk is cheap. So, Ramesha, you asked me a year ago to come, if I can come, my wife and I can come and help the Maisid. So I want to give you the good psura. That the Mirz Hashem, we have two commitments now to the Maisid. Number one is, I'm going to ask the staff in the back to please put in the beginning now, the commitment to build a seminary, to make a wing in honor of our Baba, Zelda, Aleh Shalom Nemes, Mora Nemes, in honor of her. We are going to give now $360,000 to Bais Rivkah in her honor. And I hope that all the Greise Knackers and Gvirim, people, don't worry, whatever they're talking about Signature Bank and Silicon Valley, the Eibishter is going to have a plan, he's going to figure it out. But it's a test tonight. Are you going to step up to the plate for Bais Rivkah or not? So I'm going to now bring another offer. Moshe asked me, see, Moshe Binson, by him, $5, $50, $500, $500 million, it's all the same. There's hecher for numbers. Numbers mean nothing to him. So I said, Moshe asked me for $500,000. $500,000, a lot of money. So I said, Moshe, we're going to do it like this. $360,000 is a guarantee you have tonight. If you could put it up on the board. On the next $140,000, and we're going to make a little matching game over here. In the next 2 hours, my wife and I will be matching $140,000, dollar for dollar, for those who give, and we will match their money up to $140,000. And in Mirz Hashem, you'll have the complete $500,000 commitment. And I want to encourage each and every one of you. Many of you came tonight. Let's be honest, things are not looking rosy. Things are looking, Alpiteva looking very, very down, and you could say that where's the market going? Where's the real estate market going? Where's the financial market going? Where's the stock market going? This is all Ayid is hecher from them. Ayid is higher than them. Ayid is not Alpiteva. Ayid is hecher from Teva. So I want to encourage each and every one of you to give what you can. And as the Rebbe says, the Rebbe quoted the Gemara in Tainis, B'chanunino Bazais, that the Eibishter says one thing, test me on the idea of tzedakah, and you'll see that I will repay you keflayim l'tishia. Mazel tov, and a lot of atzlacha tonight.